So, as I say, welcome along. Thank you so much for coming. This is our O Week Q&A, and we will get started straight away. And just to begin, QT acknowledges the Turrbal and Yagara as the First Nations owners of the lands where QT now stands. We pay respect to their elders, laws, customs, and creation spirits. We recognise these lands have always been places of teaching, research, and learning, and QT acknowledges the important role Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people play within the QT community. And I'm working from home today, which is in Burleigh Heads. So I would also like to acknowledge the Kumba people, who are the traditional custodians of the land where I am today. I'd like to pay my respects to all their elders, past, present, and emerging. Thank you for coming along. I can see a couple more people have just joined, so welcome. My name's Kerry. I'm your moderator for this Writing Your Journal article module. And let's have a look. So we're just going to do a little bit of an overview, and then we'll have a chance to talk about a few of the important aspects of the module, and any questions or comments. So there'll be plenty of time to talk as we go through. So this is a very broad overview about, as you can see, getting the most from the module. So obviously engaging is going to be important, but also it's really important to pace yourself and take care of yourself. Don't get in a panic if you haven't done every single thing. You will have a chance to sort of go back and, so you're in control, all right, of the pace of everything, I guess. So engaging with the content, of course, there's also a workbook, which you can see. I'll show you a screenshot of exactly where that is in a minute. The activities are there for you to help you through each section that we look at each week. We also have our discussions, our polls, and we have our peer feedback groups, all opportunities to engage. I'll explain more about those. And of course, the book. Now, it's going to be really difficult to do the module without the book. You'll see in week 1 that the first chapter is there, but because of copyright, obviously we can't give you the entire book. If you get the PDF, it's a little bit cheaper, or your library might have it. I know the QT library does have it, but it's often out, being borrowed. It is well worth the investment. I really think if you can buy it, obviously if you're going to buy the hard copy, it might take a while to get here. That's what usually happens. So consider the ebook copy, but it's really worth the investment, and I encourage you to get it as soon as you can if you haven't already. A lot of our time over the next week is about your achievable writing schedule. Okay, so we've got a lot of planning activities. So when we get to that bit, it's plan when you are going to be the most productive and where you're going to be the most productive. You'll see all of this. We'll go through it in week 1. And of course, so we need to engage, we need to plan, and of course you'll need to write as well. So, and your drafts are part of the thinking process. They're not meant to be perfect. Try to, not be trying for perfection, initially. Those drafts are really part of the process. So that's really what a lot of your time will be, is draft writing. All right, so just a bit of an overview there. Now the week 0 content, which you would have already seen, you can see there's actually a syllabus to let you know the activities and the topics each week. And also you can see there the workbook. So download the workbook. It's a Word document, so do with it what you want. You can make changes to it. You can write straight into it, whatever it is that you want to do. So that's all in the week O content, which hopefully you've had a look through. The weekly discussions. So obviously this week was the student cafe. Thank you everyone who's introduced themselves. It's really great for us all to meet each other. Your topics are so interesting. So that's That's good. If you haven't gone in there yet, pop in as soon as you can and put your introduction. I just noticed that Canvas has changed a little bit with those discussion pages. I don't know if all of you are familiar with Canvas, but you'll see at the top of the discussion pages where I've highlighted in that screenshot, you got to expand threads to see the replies more easily. You can still see them if you click replies in each post, but if you do that expand threads, they'll automatically be there, which might be easier. And you have to do that, from what I can tell, you have to do that each time. So unless Alexandra, Ola, sorry if you've got any, if you're there, is there a way for us to?
Well, when you click on a student view, actually, it's easily
Oh,
displayed.
oh, so
So
okay,
you
it's
can
just
see
my
all
view. Ah.
answers below.
Oh, right. Okay. So scrap what I just said. If you'll be in the student view. Well, I'm glad that. Okay. Thanks for that, Ola. I probably should have asked you that beforehand. All right. Good. Good, good. So you don't have to do that. Excellent. You can see them all. But the first point up there, the discussions, they're really how we engage as a whole group. So participate as often as you can. We understand that not everybody's in the module on a Monday, okay, for that week. So it's all right if it's the end of the week or even the next week and you're catching up a little bit. But the more you can engage, honestly, the more you'll get out of the module. And even just reading through what other people post, we find is really often motivating and really helps everybody to connect. And just also want to let you know about these live sessions. So obviously this is an online module, which means if you're unable to come to these specific times, you can see the dates there, and this information is in O Week. We won't be recording as such these sessions, but I will give you any slides. I will give you any handouts in the announcements on Fridays. So, you know, it's just an extra opportunity that we want to give you to come along, be collaborative, and have that extra chance for feedback. You'll have your peer feedback groups as well. So, you know, if you aren't able to come to any of them, or if you can only come to a couple, that's okay. You know, it's just a really good opportunity if you can come to, you know, have this community of practice, which we already have in the online world. But if we can also see each other's faces live, that's also nice as well. So we have 6 of those, as you can see. And really the idea behind these sessions is very much about this community of practice. As I said, we are part of a community of practice in our online. We have our polls, we have our discussions, you have your peer feedback group. So this is just something additional. So what is a community of practice? Why would we want to do this? Well, it's really all about learning collaboratively. So there's 3 things that you need for a community of practice: a shared domain of interest. We have that, article writing. A community of shared activities. We already have that within the weekly, the modules each week. And members who are practitioners and interact and share. We're doing that online anyway as well. You know, you're practitioners, you're researchers, and you're wanting to write journal articles. So having a writing community of practice online, and then with these additional sessions, we get this collegial learning environment where we're focusing on writing processes which are often implicit and invisible. That's really one of the important parts of this module, is making explicit what journal reviewers want and what we would want for your article to have the best opportunity to succeed when you submit. So we have a community of practice, which is beautiful in the module, and then these extra sessions, they give us an extra opportunity. And as you can see down there, you know, as I said, this is all coming from writing research and writing pedagogy, is that having these opportunities are how we become successful or are more likely to be successful and then continue to be successful once the module has finished. And, you know, and as you can see in that last point, it's critical for participants to commit to keeping the community active. So if we have people committed to being active and engaged in the module, you will really get a lot from it, which is what we want. So your peer feedback groups, they're not set up yet. What will happen is next week, our lovely eGrad coordinator, Ola, who's here with us today, she will send you out a very short email with a quick survey. All it is going to ask you is to select the field of study that best fits your research. So if you can reply to that as soon as possible, we can then allocate you into the groups. And the point of these peer feedback groups, of course, is that you get to engage with people in a similar field of study. There's peer feedback tasks. There's 4 of them. You can see weeks 2, 3, 5, and 11. And also each week we'll be asking you just to check in with each other, you know, be each other's cheerleaders, help to motivate, help to problem solve together. And, you know, peer feedback is really an excellent way to improve your documents, of course, but also to refine your ideas and to talk about writing. So the groups will be up and ready in week 2. We make them quite big, and that's based on feedback that bigger groups, there's more likelihood that there'll be people within those groups who will engage. So once you're in your groups, you may decide to have a smaller group, a group of 2 or 3. If a few of you engage and find that you've got similar topics or something, you can meet however you want. You can meet through Canvas, you can Zoom with each other, you can use social media, whatever works for you. So the groups are set up exactly for you to use as you can and as you want to. If you look in the Student Cafe, you can already see that a few people have said, oh, that's really similar to my topic. I hope we get to connect. So the peer feedback groups will be exactly how you can do that. So why engage with your peers? Again, you know, this is sort of going to be something I'm going to say a lot through the module. And it's that, you know, learning to talk about writing, interacting with others is how we construct our knowledge. If we isolate, it's really hard to improve and you know, get the feedback that you really do need. So it's active learning, it's helping with your critical thinking. So please engage as much as you can. If you're not going to engage in the peer feedback groups, if you know already that that's not something you're going to want to do or be able to do, just let your group know. Just say straight away when they're organized, look, I'm not gonna have the time. So, you know, and then everyone in the group is not waiting to see what you're up to. But I'm hoping that everyone will have an opportunity to at least engage in those feedback activities that we have in those specific weeks. So the thing about peer feedback itself, as you can see, there's a lot of benefits of it, but I also understand that some people are reluctant to share their writing. Sometimes we're not convinced, that it's going to be useful, or we might be a little bit worried or not confident in our writing. I would really encourage you to give it a go. One of the key things about being in a peer feedback process is that we will give you some guidelines on how to be an effective feedback giver. And that should give you some good confidence, you know, to be able to be constructive in your feedback and feel comfortable in the process. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it as well. And feedback literacy is something that's really important for you to develop, particularly with your supervisors. You know, you're going to be asking them for feedback really regularly. So the idea is that you are an active feedback participant. It's a dialogue between you and the feedback giver where, you know, you're not passive. You are actually you know, saying to the person giving feedback, hey, this is what I'm sort of concerned about. This is what I would like feedback on. And, and being able to see it as an ongoing process rather than just someone gives you feedback and then that's it. You need to take action, but also talk to the people about the feedback to get a better understanding as well. So our activities will give you that opportunity, and that should also help you in your confidence of being an active participant in the feedback process with your supervisors. That's another one of our aims. And also, you're all in the same boat, really, where these are drafts. No one's expecting perfection. Okay, so your feedback giver will be looking at readability, which is super important. So, having these opportunities to seek feedback with like-minded researchers, people in the same position as you, I hope you'll feel comfortable to do that and confident to share your writing in a way where it's not judged. It's just a way and a process to learn more and to improve the document and improve your writing. And also giving feedback is a really good strategy to improve your own understanding of your writing as well. So in week 2, we give you some, brief instructions of the process so it works well. And then there's more details in week 4. The week 2 activity for the peer feedback groups is quite short, so that's why you get more detail in week 4. Okay, so that's enough of me for a minute. I know I just talked about a lot of things there. Anyone got a comment or a question? Feel free to pop it in the chat if you prefer not to put on your mic, but I'm also happy if you would like to put on your mic. I know we've got few of you in here now, which is fabulous. Thank you. Anyone got anything they'd like to ask or say?
Yeah, Kerry, I think your emphasis on feedback is really good. I that was unexpected. But I can see how writing is a two-way street.
Yeah.
And I suppose it'll probably feel like that feedback will be the beginning of that,
Yeah.
which is really good.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. That's good. I'm glad that you feel that way. Look, I think in this context of the feedback, your peers are not giving you feedback on the content as such, right? That's your supervisor's expertise and your expertise. They're looking at readability, okay? And they will see things that you thought were obvious. Oh, I've explained that. And then they'll be able to say, yeah, but I'm not quite sure. I feel like you need to add another sentence or something like that, The idea is not to be critical as in mean. The idea is to give critical feedback that is going to make the readability better, And as I said, sometimes people feel, oh, but what do I know about this topic? How could I give useful feedback? You're giving the useful feedback because you're a reader. That's all it is. You're a reader and you're looking at it and saying, yep, I understand absolutely what you're saying there. So, and you're not even it's little parts initially, little parts of your draft. And as I said, it's a draft. So yeah, that's really great, Brenda. I'm glad that you are feeling positive about that. And I just think, as exactly as you said, it is when you're writing, it's a dialogue with the reader, and there's no room for, oh, hang on, I'm not sure what this person means. We want the reader going, oh yeah, oh right, yes, I get it, And it's very hard sometimes for us to see that readability. Wendy, did you want to say something?
Yes, please. I just want to ask, would you recommend for doing this draft that we start from scratch and start a complete paper as such from scratch, not use something that we've already started the process of putting together.
Really good question. If you've already got something started, I would recommend you go with that if you can. If you're starting from scratch, it's okay. But the thing with starting from scratch is you're going to have a lot of draft writing. If you've already got a semi-draft or some data that's been analyzed, or even some people have drafts that were rejected, or so they're not drafts anymore, are they? Articles that were potentially rejected, and they're sort of wanting to go back and revise the whole thing. So completely up to you. The book itself, Belcher's book, she's really aiming mainly to people that already have data collected and analyzed and are wanting to then put it into the article sort of format, let's say. However, we are aware that a lot of people come to this module who have some data collected and analyzed, but actually haven't even started the process of writing anything about it. And we cater for that as well. So you'll see each week where usually in the announcement, I'll say, hey, these are our activities for the week. If you're starting from scratch, this is what I would advise that you do. So we can cater for all of those options, completely up to you. But if you've already got a draft that's sort of on its way, that could be the best use of the module, let's say. But honestly, you're the best person to work that one out.
Okay, because I only just recently submitted my research proposal.
Yep.
Could I just use that as a working document?
Yeah,
Like
cool.
I have saved a copy,
Yep.
but could I just and I have also started putting my thesis together with a lot more detailed work. So could I potentially just take one chapter
Yeah,
out
for
of that
sure. Yeah,
and
for
work
sure.
on that?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, for sure. Are you thinking, so have you collected any data? No, because you're at the beginning.
Well, I'm initially, like, my supervisors said that I'm pretty much doing mine back to front because I've got data from a previous study that I'll be
Yeah, right.
analysing,
Yeah.
and then based on that, then I'll
Yep.
be doing experiments, but it'll be at the end of my
Yep. No, that sounds good. That sounds really good. You'll see as we go through that we work on different parts of the article in the different weeks. And by about, I think it's week maybe 7 and 8 or so that we start looking at the results and discussion sections. So if people aren't up to those parts in their article, you can still utilize the activities by sort of drafting, writing notes and taking the points that you really think are important for your article. So yeah, look, that sounds like a good idea.
Okay, thank you.
No problems. No problems. Anybody else got a question? Nope, we're all good. It's a really you know, you'll see as we go through that it's okay to be writing from scratch. I've got a slide in a minute where we talk a little bit about that. So everybody's going to be different. You're master of your own destiny. So, you'll get ideas as you go along, and you utilize the activities and the book to suit you. All right, good. We'll have opportunities for more questions in a second. Let's keep going. Oh, there we go. It is the absolute next slide. So, are you writing from scratch? So, I think the main thing to think about is that plenty of draft writing time, okay? Whereas if you've already got something, you've already got a little bit of a draft there. So, you're still going to have draft writing to do, of course. So, everyone's going to be in a different situation, and you just do what works for you. I think as well regarding draft writing, regardless of where your article is at this point, keep in mind writing and thinking go together. You often will think, oh, I'm not really ready. I need to read more. I need to think more. Try to get away from that. Try to write anyway. Just write what you think. And if you are someone at the beginning of your research journey and you haven't collected data, or you've started to, but you haven't analyzed it, you're still going to have thoughts, okay, and ideas and expectations, and you already will sort of have an idea of the contribution that you want to make. So you can still be drafting, notes, even dot points, just to get something down. And then you can still utilize the activities and take notes on things that you'll need to do later when you're ready for that particular section. So the idea of messy drafts, or, those dot points, is fine. That's still words on the page. You're getting started. So try to do that. And as you can see, as we said, each week we're working on a different aspect or a different section. So, if you can write something, seek feedback, and then make the most of the weekly activities. Something else I've been finding is there's been a lot of people coming into the module who are writing some kind of systematic literature review or a scoping review. Again, this is quite specific, I suppose. And I will mention, I haven't seen too many people in the Student Cafe talk about doing this yet, but I still, in the announcements each week, if there's something specific to think about, if you're writing from scratch or if you're writing a literature review, I will mention, how you could utilize the activity. So if that's you, that's totally fine. You'll see, I think it must be week 3 or 4, we look at which journal you're going to submit to. This will be super important if you are doing a systematic review or a scoping review, because not all journals would accept those kind of articles. So that's something else to think about if you're one of the people potentially doing a scoping or systematic review. The module will still be really useful as well for all those scenarios. So if you have any questions, if you're not sure, email me. Okay, you can email me and we can have a chat via email. And if you come to the live sessions as well. So, I'm always happy to give you help you answer any questions, or if you're not sure how to use the module for where you're up to. Okay, so week 1 next week is really all about planning. So, are you a planner? Some people will be, some people won't be. I understand that. If you are not a planner, I wonder, could you try to be? Just for me, for these 12 weeks, give it a go. The aim of these, you'll see in week 1, it can get a little bit confusing. We've tried to make it as clear as possible, but in week 1, you'll see that there's 2 activities. I've got those there. There's 2 calendars, blank calendars. One of them is for your actual, not planned time spent writing. This is an experiment. Okay, so next week, you'll get that calendar, the actual, not planned time spent writing. This is just to track. What do you do all day? Again, this is not to beat yourself up, by the way. This is just to get a really good picture of what you do each day. All right. So use this one to track what you do. That's what activity 1.1, just for the week. Where does your time go? All right. So you'll have family commitments, you'll have work, whatever it might be. You'll have other things that you're doing for your research, all of those things. Each day, the end of the day, go, okay, I spent my time doing these things. Then the next one is to have a go at planning your time spent writing. So this is a test case to see how much time you think you can schedule. All right. So you've got a calendar that you're going to put your plan into that you think you might be able to do. And then you've got a calendar for what you actually did. Right. And then you're going to reflect on those and figure out, what could I do better? What did I do well? I hope that makes sense. I've got a little example. All right, so this is planned. So this is me, right? A little bit older, don't do the school pickup anymore. The kids have grown since then, but this would be your planned time spent. So you can see there that I've said that from 6 till 8 on those 3 days, I plan on writing. Okay, then I've got work, I've got 2 little lunchtime writings, and then I've said, well, I don't do anything in the afternoon. I'm going to go do pickup and go home and be with my family. Yours will look completely different, and that's okay, right? And then, so that's your planned calendar, and then you're going to have your other calendar, the 1.1.1, that says what you actually did, okay? And then you're going to compare them and see how you go. Do you think that I'm going to get up at 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock and write? Maybe, hopefully. Not the days when I go to Brisbane though, because I'm on the train. So hopefully that makes sense, the 2 calendars. Then there's more planning in week 1. A lot of planning. So there's a 12-week calendar where you're going to see what you think you can get by the end. How far through your article can you get? Now, that's going to depend on whether you're writing from scratch, whether you have an article already drafted. Everyone's will be different, which is fine. And then there's a writing time flow chart. Okay, so have a look at those, use them to what you need. But I want you to understand that the whole point of these activities is to figure out what does your normal week look like and where could you put writing in, okay? And when we're talking about this, putting writing in, we're not talking about, I know I had those 2 hours there blocked in the mornings. It doesn't have to be 2 hours. It can be half an hour, 45 minutes at lunchtime. It could be, maybe you can block 2 hours for writing. But the point really is if you can write most days, even for half an hour, you will see the progress. So once you've got your calendar of this is where I've blocked out the time that I know I can't write because I have other commitments, what's left? Where can you get up early like I'm supposed to do? Maybe you're a late night worker and you can do an hour after everyone's gone to bed. So that's what week 1 is really about, is understanding where our time goes and putting in some good writing plans that fit your schedule. If it's not going to fit your schedule, it's not going to work that well. So be realistic, I think is the right word. In the book each week, WYJA estimates times that you may need. It's generally 6 to 8 hours a week. Don't stress about that. You do what you can, right? Now, but she's talking about all of the reading that you would do in the book, which we've compressed in the module. And this includes draft writing as well and feedback activities and all of those sorts of things. So if you're already panicking about 8 hours a week, please don't. You're going to do what you can do based on your actual context, all right? So being part of the module, the idea is to streamline that time frame, okay? Some weeks maybe you can spend that time. Some weeks maybe you can't. We understand 12 weeks is a long time. Life happens. Please be kind to yourself. That's really, really important. As well as, yes, writing as often as you can, but also you're a human. So be kind to yourself as well. That's an example of WYJA's timings. Again, completely up to you whether you are going to utilize that. That's minutes, by the way. Now, you'll see we talk about those different tracks. The first one, human interpretive, that's if you've got an interpretive article. Okay, so I probably put literature reviews maybe into that bucket. The other column, the sci-qua, that's if you're reporting on a qualitative or quantitative study. Okay, these are guides. You use them to how it suits your actual needs. So let's think about the next 3 weeks. Something really important as well, by around week 6, the activities and tasks really scale back as well. That's something, and it's the focus really comes to our draft writing. So if you already have had a look at the activities in the first sort of few weeks, there is a lot, I understand, but it does scale back for the second half of the module. So you can keep that in your mind as well. So, one of the things that the book talks about in the module is to be successful, we need to write. That's obvious. We need to read. We've already talked about making writing social. That's the idea of checking in with your peers and the peer feedback part of it. Persist despite rejection. Obviously, if this is your first article, we are going to do everything not to get rejected. Maybe you've already had rejections, but persist, because this happens. Most journals, especially the high Q1 journals, they have really high rejection rates, and it happens to all of us. All right. So that's another really important theme, is keep persisting. You will get better. Okay. And usually, or often, the rejections are because the article doesn't fit the scope of the journal. We're going to avoid that because we have a whole week where we focus on that. So, persist. That's the aim. And one of the ways you persist is by pursuing your passion. Everyone in the student cafe has said how excited they are, motivated they are about their research topics. So I feel like that passion should be there. So please don't lose that over the 12 weeks. And that really important word in that second dot point is about achievable schedules. You're going to develop effective writing habits by looking and reflecting on your usual week and when you can write. And when we procrastinate and avoid writing, that's how we get anxiety. So that's the idea of the effective writing habits. And very much in week 1, we talk about obstacles as well. So what are some obstacles that you already know? They could be psychological obstacles. They could be physical obstacles. We're going to talk about that. And you're going to put your plans into place to overcome them. Yes, question. Thank you, Wendy.
Sorry, I was trying to find a pen and paper, but I can't find one.
That's okay.
I just want to find out if, like, when you were talking about journals having a really strict criteria, and chances are in our career we will have articles that are rejected.
Yep.
For ones that are rejected, are we allowed to submit them to another journal article? There's no sort of plagiarism?
Yep, you can, 100%. The only issue is, and this is something we talk about, I'm pretty sure it's week 4 when we talk about selecting a journal. The only thing is, while it's sitting with that journal, you can't submit it to another one.
Right.
And sometimes journals take a long time to get back. So that should probably, well, not even probably, that should be in all of your calculations of what is the best journal for my article, to consider the turnaround times as well. So, but absolutely, as I said, usually if you get rejected, it's because it doesn't fit the scope. And they come back and say, well, thanks for your thing, but I just don't think it's going to suit our readers. But hopefully we're going to avoid that through our due diligence. So yeah, but absolutely, if it gets rejected, so when you go through the process of selecting the best journal, have a couple just in case. So you sort of don't have to maybe go through that process again. So yeah, really good question. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
No worries. All right, so weeks 1 to 3. So you've got a few things there. Again, getting into this habit of just writing. So when you schedule writing time, make sure you're all set up with what you're going to write, where you're going to write, and when you're going to write, and just write. Get rid of all the distractions, even if it's half an hour, just, and you don't even know exactly what you want to say. Just say, oh, I don't really know what I want to say, but, my main point of having this article is I really want to share something. My data's really interesting, just write whatever. Once you get into that mode and start to sort of, it's like free writing, isn't it? You'll get into the groove and you'll be, right, getting my thoughts down on paper is a really good idea. So try not to feel like everything you write at every session that you write has to be perfect, because it will slow you down. So, yep, engage, we already know those things. And as I said, it might seem like a lot of things in these first few weeks. Trust the process, trust that we're leading you through that. And, sometimes, so for instance, we talk about drafting your abstract. Now, sometimes people think, oh, we can't write the abstract to the end, but there's reasons why we do that. It gets you started. Gets you knowing where your gaps are that you need to write more. It gets you understanding the structure of what you want to have. So trust the process. I'll keep saying that throughout. And then in weeks 1 to 3, we focus on your argument, okay, which is your argument revolves around the research problem. What are you arguing? You're saying, hey, there's this research problem and my research can help gain insight into solving it. And as I said, you're going to start drafting the abstract as well. So yeah, the pace slows down after week 6. If you fall a little bit behind, it's okay. You can come back. This is not about having a stressful time. I really want you to enjoy this and see the productivity happen. And we have a break week after week 6. So that gives everyone time to breathe. Go back if you need to, spend time on your draft writing. So we can look forward to that. All right. So I've talked a lot about this idea of daily writing habits. Obstacles to productivity, which is what you'll do next week, is figuring those out and then minimizing the obstacles. Yep. Wendy, go for it.
Sorry.
That's okay.
just
Great questions. Thank you.
I don't know if I'm jumping ahead and you will go further into this when we write our abstracts. But you mentioned that it's a good idea to write it like at the beginning.
Yep.
Or, even if it's like a draft type thing.
Yep.
Some papers I've read like the abstract is just
very short
parts that they've taken parts that they've like word for word that they've taken out of the actual
paper
full article.
Yep.
Is there a reason? Because I always thought you would
probably want it to be slightly reworded, but there will definitely be some parts of it that would come directly from. So for example, maybe the aim, that could be something that's, and also some of the key results potentially, maybe. But yeah, look, I think again, it'll depend on the field of study. It will depend on the journal as well. But even so, maybe that's a good way to start, and then just leave yourself a note knowing, okay, I've pulled this exactly from what I've written in my draft. So I may want to just mix up the words a little bit or restructure it slightly. So yeah. And the fact that you're saying, well, I've read journals that have been published or articles that have been published and they've pulled it exactly from, what does that tell us? That tells us that journal, they're happy with that as the abstract. So, that might save a bit of time. But generally, I would say try to reword slightly. But yes, it will definitely be coming from, obviously, the article. So, Yeah.
Yeah, because I've noticed that sometimes I've read the abstract and then thought, oh, yep, this is a suitable paper. And then when I've read it, I'm like, you've just
You
written
already
the
said that.
exact same thing
Yeah.
like
Mm.
in part of the introduction. I'm just like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
It just
yeah.
seemed odd, that's all. And I just
Yeah,
wanted to know if
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
common practice or not.
Yeah, a little bit, part of it, maybe not a whole chunk of the abstract coming especially, but certainly, you know, there would be a few sentences that would be the same or at least similar. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay,
what
thank
is
you.
that's okay.
Oh,
Which
sorry.
tells us, no, I was just going to say, which sort of tells us that with the abstract, you're not kind of reinventing the wheel as such. You know, you are pulling it from the rest, and that's a really good way to start anyway with your drafting. But yeah, thank you for the questions. It's great. All right. So procrastination and busyness. What are you thinking? Is anyone at the moment doing a daily writing habit? Have you thought about, you know, or do you already have a writing plan? Already know some obstacles to productivity? Any thoughts? Are you like this guy in the image?
I haven't got a writing plan, but I intend to put one together because it seems like a really good way
Yeah.
to keep me
Yeah.
focused.
Yeah, no, it is. It really is
Mm.
because if it's not in your diary, you won't do it.
Oh, well,
Probably.
I like writing, so
Good.
but it's I do know that I can have the mental blocks,
Yeah.
but I also know that when I have deliberately set myself time,
Yep.
I know that the mental blocks don't seem to block me up
That's
in that
great.
time. So
Yeah, that's so good.
if I have a program, like, you know, a plan, then I might not have mental blocks at all.
Yep,
Wouldn't that be
exactly,
nice?
exactly. And the good thing about planning is when if you have a writing session, it's an hour, whatever it is, when you finish, you can say to yourself, oh, that was so good. Right, the next thing I have to do is blah, blah, blah. And then next time you open it up, you're all set up, ready to go. Because oftentimes part of the block is figuring out, oh gosh, what am I going to write today? Oh, I think I need to go back and read this thing, you know. So if you know exactly what it is that you're going to write, that should set you up. In the chat, thank you. I don't have a writing plan, but blocking out time to do this is a good idea. Usually weekends, my writing time as there's less distractions. That's really cool. That's a good idea. So already you know your best writing time. And then during the week, in between, you know, all of your other important activities, if you can just put a few little half hours in, you know, you'll really see how you go, you know, that the productivity will go. And in week one, there's a lot of discussion and thinking about why we procrastinate. There's some cool research done by a seminal researcher in the field of writing and productivity. His name is Boyce. And, you know, his research really does show that if we have cheerleaders, people that we check in with, and we have planned writing time, you're going to write a lot more than you know, someone that just writes when they when they go, oh, I've got an hour, I might just do a little bit of writing. So as I said, if you're not a planner, give it a go, you know, and see if it works for you. Organization and productivity, there's so many things out there. If anyone's got any brilliant ideas that they use, sometimes just your paper diary, if you have one, or your email calendar is the easiest thing. But some people like apps, some people like mind maps or organizers. There's just a few, there's hundreds out there. So yeah, if anyone has any great ideas, feel free to pop it in the chat. I've used the forest one. It's pretty good. You grow a forest, you grow trees when you have it. So it's a productivity app. You set a timer for how long you want to work uninterrupted. But it was on my phone, and I guess having your phone is not ideal if you're trying to focus. All right, so we're just about at the end of the session today. So yes, Prithvi.
Hi, could you
Hello.
hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I'm actually looking forward through this model is that you see, whenever we are writing as a research student, right? So I'm personally a mathematics student, so I actually do not like writing. So
Like
so
most people. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but there are so many ideas, and the problem that I'm facing is that how can I actually flow those ideas? How can I actually organize those ideas? I've written a paper and published it, and I felt that it was not to that standard, but I did published it. So I'm actually really looking forward to how can I organize all my structures and uh, just to have a quality paper and to display my idea. And the things that you were saying about writing a systematic literature review, actually, I'm in the process of writing that, and it would be quite a great help if I can get more information on like how to organize and how to flow ideas in systematic
Yeah.
literature review, because there are so many you're analyzing so many papers and how to connect those ideas.
Yeah, that's such a good question. Okay, so because the 12-week process that we go through, I guess, is quite prescriptive, which some people like that, some people don't like it. But the reason for it to be like that is exactly as you said, to be systematic, as far as getting all of these ideas into a well-structured way, let's say. So I think too that what people sometimes do, and I'm not saying this is what you have done, but what sometimes people are doing is trying to put too much into one paper, right? Especially if you're doing it from a thesis, where a thesis is a very big research project, isn't it? Generally. So usually out of your thesis, you could write 2 or 3 papers. So one of the key things I think to help you with that idea of, getting the ideas into a good structure is limiting how many ideas you have for a start. And in week 2, we focus on writing your argument. And so this is where you get what is it exactly that you want the reader to get from this article? Okay, so you articulate the specific point, idea, problem that you're going to write about. So the idea of that is to get you focused and get you to narrow. Because once you start trying to articulate your argument, if you find it's got and something and something and something else, that's going to tell you straight away, oh, I'm trying to do too much. It's going to be much better if I divide this into 2 articles or even 3. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is, again, as we actually have a week where we talk about macro structuring articles, and we talk about all of the different ways you can do that depending on, potentially your field of study or the type of article you're doing. So the questions that you have, Prithvi, are really excellent questions, and we do address them as we work through. So it's another matter, I guess, of trust in the process. Yes, it's prescriptive, but it's prescriptive for a reason, in that, writing an article, it needs to be clear and it needs to be structured in a way that leads the reader through. So we will do a stack of activities around those things. So basically I think you've come to the right place if this is what you're needing. And that's really the point of the module, is to say, writing an article has a lot of moving parts. So let's take each of those moving parts and work on them. And then, we will then have the full draft. We can then seek feedback, and revise, and then it should almost be ready, you know, for submission. And if you are someone who, you know, is not into the process of writing as far as the being prescriptive the way it is, take what works for you, you know. But I just think that unpacking each of these different aspects and then putting it into your draft is why, you know, so many of the research of the participants who do the module, they do end up, you know, with an article to submit, which is so fabulous. Not everyone has it ready by week 12, but so many people reply to us and tell us at the end of the module they're almost ready, or maybe they submit a couple of months later. And that's because of this 12-week process that we go through, allowing you to look at all of the different moving parts in an individual way and in a collegial way where the learning environment is very collaborative, and, you know, you get that opportunity to seek feedback. So does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah. Actually, that's what happened is that when I was writing my systematic literature review, the amount of information that I've presented, it was quite a lot. It was
Yeah.
actually a lot. So
Yeah.
I'm actually really looking forward. What does the readers want? And it's like, what is out there? What are the new trends going on and all those stuff?
Yeah. And really boiling it down to a key argument that you want the reader to take away. Now, you know, because if you're doing the review, a systematic or scoping review, then you may not have a research problem as such because you're not collecting data, but you do have a problem. The problem is there's a gap in the knowledge, right? So, and
Yes.
and if we get to insight into knowing what exactly the gap is, and when you write a systematic or scoping review, the point of doing that is that you're going to help to fill that gap. So, you know, that should help you to narrow it down to be like, oh, gee, we need to find out all this more, you know, need to find some empirical evidence to help solve this problem. We don't, as you can see from previous studies, there's still gaps in what we know and what we don't know. And oh, gee, my research is going to do this down the track. So that might help you to sort of focus to exactly what your argument's going to be regarding, you know, the point of doing this systematic review. All
Yeah.
right. Well,
Thank you.
good. No worries at all. No worries at all. All right. Well, thank you so much for your questions. If anybody else still has a question, this is our last slide. Oh, we're nearly at 1 o'clock. But look, at the end of the day, good luck. Do your best. Be confident you can do this. I know some people say, oh, 12 weeks. Oh, no, that's just going to be so hard. Writing a journal article is going to take that time. And what a lovely way to do it with other people in a module. You're guided through, you'll learn so much. Do your best with your writing plan, make it achievable. Don't put yourself under duress. That's not what we want. Be kind to yourself. Connect with your feedback groups. Come along to our live Zoom COP sessions if you can. If you can't, it's okay. All right. I will give you all the resources. These slides will be in tomorrow's announcement as well as the recording. Sorry, I probably could have uploaded them for you today. I forgot to do that, but you'll have them anyway tomorrow. Reach out if you have questions. Ola and I are here for you. And you know, you've got your goals. You want to submit a journal article. So you're going to be well on your way. Sometimes Ola will email you, for example, about getting set up for your peer feedback groups. I think she'll do that next week. And I think that's about it. Look, have fun, you know. Yes, this is serious. You want to write an article, but as I said, you know, I don't want you stressed and under duress. Okay, if you need to rest, please rest. I think next week you should get a lot out of the activities. It's all about you. What obstacles are you facing, if any? how can you bust those obstacles? And for this 12 weeks, even, you know, look at it like that, to schedule in these extra writing times where you can. Maybe you can minimize some of the other things you have to do, just for these 12 weeks. It's a finite time, isn't it? You know, you're not going to be doing this module forever. Okay. So yeah, thank you so much for coming along. Anyone got a question before we go? Nope. I think we're all good. Awesome. Well, thank you for your great participation today and your questions. They were fabulous. I think other people will have got a lot out of those. Great. So I will see you online. Looking forward to meeting more of you in the student cafe, and of course over the 12 weeks. I will be here with you.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for coming. Thanks, everybody. Go and have some lunch. All right. I will see everyone online. Take care.